And good morning and welcome. It's Jennifer Britton, and it is December the 8th, 2017. And I'm so excited to be kicking off the 14th annual year-end group and team programs call. This has really become an annual tradition for me. When I first started off in 2004, it was all done by teleconference. And here we are, years later, the world is increasingly busy and interconnected as well. And I've known for the last 4 or 5 years that most people are now joining these calls after the fact. So thanks for spending a few minutes with me. What was originally a 1 hour call has now shortened to 30 minutes. Who knows where we're going to be at the end of 2018? I imagine even shorter. So if you haven't met me before, I'm Jennifer Britton. I'm the author of several books, Effective Group Coaching, From One to Many, Best Practices for Team and Group Coaching, and my most recent, which is Effective Virtual Conversations. I work with coaches, leaders, teams globally to help them do better work. And in this annual year-end tradition, it really is an opportunity to sort of reconnect, get you to stop and pause and think about where are you now and what have you been focusing on this year? This is a 30-minute call. We're going to take a look back at some of the trends from 2017 around groups and teams, as well as look forward to 2018. So given that we only have half an hour, I want to be sort of quick and nimble. I know that time is incredibly valuable. And looking at how we interface and how we connect, it really is a certain day. So people will be joining us. I want to welcome those of you that are joining us. I am recording our call today, and I just wanted to start off with, again, a pause, giving you all a pause to sort of think about what some of your highlights have been from this year. As I look back to this year, it's been another amazing year in terms of looking at what's important for my clients, myself. A few weeks ago, I was awarded a national award with one of my clients, and we received an award of excellence for curriculum design in the area of healthcare and coaching. And it was quite exciting for us. Last year, the same program was awarded a PRISM Award. This year, we got recognition from the Institute for Performance and Learning for the actual design. And as someone who spends a large amount of my time working with others to help them do better instructional design, this was a great recognition from peers as well as at a national level. Another big success this year has been the launch of my latest book, Effective Virtual Conversations, which came out this summer. And that has been a whole new body of work, or an extension of really my work, and new conversations. So if you haven't yet joined me on Mondays, usually those calls are held either at 11 or 11:30 on Mondays. Throughout the fall, I'll be continuing those on in the new year, doing one a month. And so you can visit that whole new body of work at Effective Virtual Conversations. It's led to the offshoot of a new Essentials program, Virtual Facilitation Essentials. We ran a couple of those this fall. People love it. If you're looking to gain confidence in running virtual programming, whether on Zoom, by phone, by Skype, by webinar, by WebEx, that is truly the program for you. And like my other Essentials work, very much about getting things into practice. So I want to take you into some of the things that I've really been noticing in this year, some of the trends. Again, we're not just specifically talking about coaching or training or facilitation. It's really trends along how are we supporting individuals, teams, and groups in their work. And I've really seen about 5 or 6 different themes, I would say almost influencing every conversation I've been in this year. And that's a lot of thousands of hours of conversation, whether it's been with teams or whether it's been with virtual groups, things like agile. Again, like I think as I started off at the start of this call by saying, when I first started these calls back in 2004, they were an hour long. There would be hundreds of people on the line with me. Today, it's a very different reality. People Zoom in and listen to components. Probably what I'll do with this year's, and I was just thinking what I should have done was actually do a Facebook Live. But maybe next year we'll do Facebook Live. But it will be probably something that I pull out the trends, have a shorter video on this, and then a 2018 looking ahead. The world of Agile has really influenced so many of our workplaces, our team events, and also our conversations. And in the world of Agile, it's all about rapid iteration. have a couple of slides on this, but one of the things I've been enjoying doing has been working with what I call hacks and sprints. And in fact, earlier this week on Monday, I hosted a 45-minute program sprint. And so real time, people were working on their program ideas. I used to think that maybe we needed a few hours, but what I've seen now for the last 2 years in doing these publicly and with my own groups is you can really get a lot of focus and road coverage in a very short amount of time. Another trend that we've seen has been around microlearning. I can say a few words about that in our call today, as well as brain-based learning. And we're also really seeing a renaissance or a resurgence of just team approaches. I think in today's world of complexity, change, and challenge, we increasingly recognize that we need an army. We need really a team of people where everyone is pulling together. And as we move to this type of workspace, it's really key that we have trust as a foundation. Virtual approaches will not work if there is no trust or connection. So trust is really a key issue. And I've been seeing that in my work with in-person teams as well as virtual teams throughout the year. Of course, with my body of work of effective virtual conversations, I also put here on it as a 2017 trend, just virtual. And I think this is the 4th or 5th year I've hosted these calls on Zoom now. More and more professionals are using this as a great platform to spark conversation, create engaging workspaces, and learning events. So before I go into these 6 areas very quickly, I just wanted to also take a look back. I was actually curious, what did I say this time last year about trends that we were seeing then in the team and group domain? So this is what we covered in last year's, and you can always visit this if you weren't with me this time last year. Head on over to my YouTube channel. It's Effective Group Coach over at YouTube. Again, that's Effective Group Coach, no ing. Last year I was talking about the real need for just-in-time support. And I think we have continued to see just a resurgence of, looking at what's the best fit. Are we doing e-learning? Are we doing video-based learning? Are we bringing people together real time? We were seeing continued expansion of virtual space last year, as well as neuroscience, which has come up again. Last year, especially, I was really quite intrigued by getting into dialogue around what are the different modalities, coaching and other, around how we can be sparking conversations. And in fact, that then became a huge focus of my newest work in effective virtual conversations, looking at an ecosystem. I'm going to share with you that ecosystem today. Now, for today, end of 2017, and we'll see where it goes, but I think, Agile, I've said Agile a trend. I don't know about you, but in the world of my clients, whether they're banks or hospitals or educators, really Agile and working collaboratively in a lean way, in an iterative way, in a visual way, really has become key to their work. And so there are many, many different iterations of Agile. Again, it's come out of the IT world. It really is this mindset of rapid iteration. But what is quite intriguing with Agile is it's a very team-based approach. And teams participate in different environments and different sort of rapid sprints and hacks. So for those of you just joining us, where I'm going through some of these trends this year, and with Agile, I think we have an opportunity to learn from this related profession of how do we get teams moving faster, more rapid pace in a way that people are really rapidly changing and iterating and learning from each other. And as I said, one of the things I've been experimenting with has been these hacks and sprints. And it's really exciting when we can actually start taking movement forward with our own program design. I know for many of you listening in, your coaches, your trainers, you're constantly designing. And imagine what you could achieve if you had 45 minutes to be working on a program design rather than a whole day. Well, I've committed throughout 2018 to continue to be offering hacks and sprints on a regular basis as part of the Learning Lab and Design Studio. That's a Friday group I host. And I'm also going to be probably doing another hack next fall once we get back to work. So if you haven't been part of my hacks and sprints, join me in the Learning Lab and Design Studio or stay tuned for next fall. Now, a second theme of this year around groups and teams has really been about micro-learning. If you haven't heard about micro-learning, here are the nuts and bolts. It really is about condensing the learning process into these bite-sized pieces. And those bite-sized pieces may only be 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes in length. With micro-learning, it could be a quick video that we offer up. It could be a short article that only takes a few minutes to read. It could be an excerpt of a TED Talk that we give. So micro-learning in today's rapid-fire environment is a way to keep the focus. It's a way for those of you that are coaches to be offering up content outside of the coaching conversation. Because I think what is key is, I think most of our end users, the learner, is thinking, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time to learn this. But you know what? A micro-learning module, a short video, might whet people's appetite and also give them the sense that, you know what? Really, I do need to learn a little bit more. Maybe I should be engaging in some coaching or a longer-term program. So with micro-learning, this is an area that I've been engaged with at a tangent, but what was fascinating was a few months ago at the Learning Lab and Design Studio, we did a month's focus on micro-learning. So those of the people who were with me in the LLDS, we actually did some real-time building of micro-learning modules. And I've realized, in my work, as we look at really what the definition of micro-learning is, a lot of the work that I started piloting in 2014 around Udemy and my video-based learning was part and parcel of this. So think about what your next steps might be with micro-learning. It may simply be looking at what is micro-learning. It's getting everywhere. It's everywhere. Now, blending. I think what I get excited about is blending and the best of all worlds. And this time last year, I shared the new ecosystem of virtual learning approaches from my new book, Effective Virtual Conversations. I unfortunately did not grab the graphic, but basically, what we are seeing in today's world is just an opportunity to be working across the spectrum of formal and informal learning approaches, from the more formal in terms of like real-time e-learning where you have a set curriculum, through to the informal learning of peer sharing, masterminds, etc. I think our clients, given that this technology is so pervasive, are wanting the best of their world. And I'd invite you to be thinking about what is the world of your client and how can you be serving them with different modalities. We continue to see a huge amount of learning around brain-based learning. One of my favorite learning events this year, there were actually 2 of them. Earlier this year, I participated in some learning with Judith Glazier. Her body of work is conversational intelligence. She has done an amazing job looking at what happens through the science of conversation and the brain. And I also would like to do a shout out for David Rock and his continued work in the area of neuro leadership. And I participated in an annual summit he does in the fall. Really was intrigued to just see how much more refined the science is becoming around how we do things in the learning space, especially the virtual learning space. So if you haven't heard of David Rock, definitely check out the work he and his whole team of researchers do through the Neuro Leadership Institute. If this is a new area for you, again, I think there's opportunity for continued growth and learning. As I was sharing last year at this time, in my undergraduate work, way back when in the late 1980s, I studied at McGill. And in those days, McGill was one of the lead research institutions around cognitive psychology. That's what we used to call it, cognitive psychology. And I actually took several years of studies in cognitive psych, and I was fascinated and realized now, looking back, how much those early days of looking at how do we prime people for learning, how do we actually, help people create focus. These are all the things that we now have like oodles of research around, which really show that, in learning, we do want to think about how do we help learners learn best. That's ultimately what brain-based learning is about. Now, a fifth theme here in team approaches is, no surprise to all of you, continued focus on teaming. So teaming is a term coined by Amy Edmonston. She wrote Teaming about 5 years ago. And just this week, I don't have it here, I received her latest book, which is called Extreme Teaming. I've just cracked the spine on it, but it's a great read if you're looking for like something to add to your Christmas list. I would put Extreme Teaming, especially if you're working with teams that are having to collaborate across functions, across industries, which increasingly is what our teams are being called upon. You know, we're no longer working in silos. We're also having to work across the silos. And so we are now seeing, again, from a research perspective, what do teams need? And it comes back to the basics, you know, psychological safety, team norms, looking at how do we know each other and trust each other so that we can be running as a team, running separately and coming back together again. So I'd like you to think about where teams are on your radar screen. As someone who has been working in the sphere of team and group coaching now for 14 years, I'm really amazed at how I think we've hit a tipping point where so many coaches in the profession are realizing they do need to further build skills in this area, because as I said a few minutes ago, we are no longer working in isolation. So whether you're doing one-off team sessions or ongoing team building or 6 or 1 year 6-month team, 1 year team coaching sessions, team approaches I think are going to continue to be a big theme into the new year. And for teams to excel, they need to have trust. As I said at the start of this call, trust was probably something that was a component of each and every engagement I worked on this year. Trust is elusive. We have, some great models that we can connect into, whether it's Rena and Rena's Trust and Betrayal in Today's Workplace, or whether it's the work of Stephen Covey, and he's identified 13 trust-building behaviors. Really, for teams today, I think so many teams are struggling with this issue. And I brought up this slide. This is actually the slide from a session I did with a team a few weeks ago. And we started with a question, where are you now around trust? And where do you want to be? And it was quite insightful. That discussion took a good 20 minutes. Where are you now as a team around trust, and where do you want to be? But helping the team move into the place of aspiration took them out of a place where they felt perhaps a little bit, like they weren't complete, or they weren't full, or they weren't the best that they could be. Because trust is something that we can add to and take away from. And in today's world of rapidly forming teams, this is the element that helps people like jump in and get to work. So as you can see on the cogs of the wheel, words like loyalty, reliability, respect, integrity, sincerity, these are really key issues, and they are not easy to achieve. They're not being well modeled in the world. And so how do we help our teams and the people that we're working with create these in their orbits, create these in their arena? I'm not sure if you find this, but you will probably see trust even more on the horizon. I've done a whole series of calls on virtual this fall, so I don't want to say a lot more about this, because you can now dip into more than 10 calls on effective virtual conversations. Those are all housed over at effectivevirtualconversations.com. The new book is available through that website or through Amazon. And just like my other books, it's been amazing to see how it is spreading across the world. So the book really looks at how do we have better conversations in a virtual space. It addresses things like virtual approaches, a little bit on virtual teams, but more importantly about how do you have these better conversations. There are so many pressures to virtualize, and I even see it in my own work. What's sort of interesting is, the context we operate within continues to shift. And so I think if you are not yet engaging in virtual conversations, it's probably just off on the horizon. If you've just jumped into it, you're probably realizing you might need more resourcing, and I hope you'll check out the book. In bringing this book forward into the world, I felt that it was really important to bring people together in a virtual space for conversations. And just looking at who's with us today, some of you have been with me on calls this fall. Stay tuned in 2018. Every month on a Monday, usually the first Monday of the month, I'll be hosting a virtual call to help you with topics like habits as successful virtual conversationalists, developing trust in teams and groups in the virtual space, and exercises for more engaging virtual conversations. You can download a list of the upcoming calls over at virtualconversations.com, effectivevirtualconversations.com, and hope that you will join us. So I know we've got a few people here. Want to say again, a welcome to you. What have you seen as trends this year? I don't know if either one of you want to just input. You can input via voice or via chat. But I'm always intrigued to see, like, am I seeing what other people are seeing? What's been key in your world this year? And Susan, you've unmuted. So do you want to say something verbally? And we are recording our call today, so.
Yeah, there were a couple things. I mean, I did jump on a little late, unfortunately. I'm sorry for that, but I popped in and I saw the Agile, and I'm hearing a lot about Agile. It's if it isn't a buzzword yet, it will be. It's certainly getting bigger in that realm, but just that ability, things like the sprints and stuff, people are finding that. I'm hearing a lot more about, work. What is it called? You work for 25 minutes, take 5 minutes off. It's called
Pomodoro technique.
Pomodoro reminds me of spaghetti. I'm always like, okay, what's it called? But so things like that, and styles like that to get more out of less, if you will.
More or less, it's so fascinating because I think for all of us that are business owners, like, we are constantly against the clock. Our clients that are on teams are constantly against the clock as well. Mm-hmm. And so how do we support that? How do we also shift our mindset? Mm-hmm. And I haven't said it because I'm so excited about it, but I last month, National Writing Month, book number 4 has come into the world, and it is for virtual teams, and part of this is, how as a team can we all look at changing our personal productivity so that we can really get things done? So It's interesting that you are seeing Agile. I in the writing of this new book, I'm dipping my toes a lot more into the Agile writing space to see what's been done, because I'm seeing on a practitioner's lens my clients who are embracing Agile in fields that are not IT, and seeing how that's really changed the way teamwork is being done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead. The other thing is, in terms of, and this is something I always think about when I'm looking at the work that you're doing is, virtual work, especially in these mini learning components. I'm seeing so much on Facebook Live.
Yes.
And the live, YouTube has the live component. They're more of a recorded, and LinkedIn is starting to come up the live pipeline. It's going to show up any day now. But really, that's what Facebook Live is those short learning components, although it often isn't treated that way, but that's what you're looking at, is people have this much time. So in this quick second, what can I do, and how do I capture that time, and what can I do in that bullet of time? It's an interesting approach.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach, and I think it's, just as you're saying, it may be in its infancy of potential. How could we leverage it more effectively? Mm-hmm. to maximize those times.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Marie-France, you're with us as well, and I see you brought yourself onto videos. So what have you seen this year? What are some of the themes that you've seen?
Well, I was quite taken by your comment about trust, and the fact that you have been involved in trust conversations over the year in a big way. I'm just sensing that the whole Me Too movement has brought a sense that it's okay to call out certain behaviors and things that make us feel unsafe. I'm not sure all workplaces are resilient enough to take all of this in and in all of its ways, shapes, or forms. So I'm sort of expecting that to be kind of in certainly in the zeitgeist, and certainly in the conversations that I'm going to be having more about safety and what's acceptable, not acceptable, how do we trust each other, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And these are the really difficult or courageous conversations we need to have. And, I think many organizations, as you said, are just realizing we have to have this conversation. Yeah. Where do we start? Yeah. Do we even have the safety to enter into these conversations?
Right.
So it's a scary place. And it's interesting that you say that. It's sort of an interesting possibility. And I didn't even put this on because I think, trust will be overarching. we are really there, especially as coaches. Both of you are coaches, and the ability to create that pause, to invite people to enter in, to have the conversation is so critical. One of the very practical things I've seen this year too, in focusing on trust, has been a shift around languaging. Are we calling it difficult conversations or courageous conversations? And I've been offering that up to a couple of my clients, and many clients have been gravitating. We don't want to call it difficult. We want to call it courageous, because it really speaks to, stepping out on a limb, being a bit edgy, not knowing, but trusting. And I think that goes hand in hand with another skill that we're hearing a lot more about, which is candor. I don't know if either one of you have read Radical Candor. It's an excellent book. Again, another one of the books that I dipped into in doing the writing for this newest book for virtual teams. And we really, across the board, need to get much better at speaking about the difficult issues. This has been actually what I think is quite interesting is if we look at the evolution of team coaching. One of the things we've really been encouraging teams to do for the last decade plus has been to have these transparent, challenging, risky conversations. And so now we have, society sort of saying, yes, we need to, like, me too, I too have been part of this, or this has been my experience. So I think there's a real opportunity for coaches to be part of the conversation space in starting to model and provide, a platform for teams, organizations to step into it. So thank you, Mary France. Couple of other things, again, like need for skills in many areas, regardless of what lens we're coming to this. We operate in an ecosystem. And just as the Me Too movement is showing, like movements, social movements have a very, very different speed. This is where we connect like speed with agile as well. It's very different to be operating in a context which is ever changing. And that requires new skills. It requires different mindsets. And again, a continued focus on micro learning. How do we equip people with skills when they're running a million miles a minute? Everything is accelerated, including teaming. And what is fascinating too, and we're seeing this with Me Too, but I think there's also a whole cross-cultural lens as well. A lot of taboo issues cross-culturally around gender, around race, around power and privilege that are just starting to emerge. So that may be, if you're not already working in sort of the global cross-cultural lens, I think all of us in our conversations are being invited to think about how are we all different, regardless of whatever lens we're looking at things. How are we creating safety for people to show up as they are in their diversity, and how do we leverage the difference rather than try to make everyone the same? I think we'll continue to see, just-in-time and on-demand learning opportunities. As someone who sort of jumped into the on-demand learning space 4 years ago, I'm amazed at just how much rich stuff is available now in the on-demand learning space, whether you're using still Udemy or Teachable or looking at having other platforms bring your message out. I hope that if this has been an area that you have not yet jumped into, that you'll look at seeing how it might transpire into your business next year. Because people want it. People may not have 3 months to join you, but they may want to connect with you in a way that is more on demand. And within that, this is where I want to leave a few minutes in our remaining minutes just over to you. Like, what is going to be next for you in your work? I wanted to leave people with the question of, like, as you think about where you are today, whether it is the end of 2017 or some other day, what needs focus and attention in your business right now? I want you to just actually take 30 seconds while we're here on the call to note for yourself, what is the one thing that needs focus in your business right now or your work, and what also needs attention? Take 30 seconds to note that and put a date on it so that when you come back to this sheet of paper or note, you will know when you wrote it. I also wanted to give people an opportunity this morning, or whenever you're listening to it, to just have like a micro moment, 2 minutes, to actually brainstorm for yourself on what are some of the areas you want to create some programming around. And I'm going to just set a 2-minute timer. Try to make a list of all the things you would like to be working on in the next year. When our timer goes, that will mean time is up. And that is it. So Susan's already mentioned it, but I hope to see you in the expansion of virtual space, whether it's Facebook Live. Periscope is pretty much, I don't hear about it that much anymore, but Facebook Live. Hope that you will continue to find a pause point in your work. I wanted to also leave you with the top 5 things that I found I reached out to this year. So miniature metaphor. Some of you may have seen that. It's available. It's a great tool over at Coaching Toys. I've been speaking a lot this year about visual anchor points. So important in today's virtual world. Just like that trust photo, what's the one thing that might create an anchoring, but also an opening to invite conversation. We've talked a little bit about hacks and sprints, as well as trust and difficult or courageous conversations. The final thing that I've been doing a lot around, whether it's virtual or in person, and I sort of continue to see people going, oh, I get it now, but breakouts. You know, people want to be in dialogue with each other. I think we are now at a place where, yes, you can have 100 people on a call and you can talk at them, and people want to engage with each other. So that does mean that we need to sort of let things go, allow people's voices to come to the table and create and share. That's a little bit of an extension from last year's top 5 as well. So my vision is really a hope, more of a hope for what you can create in your world next year. If you have time after our call today, there are some vision questions here for you. I know this is something I've been doing a lot of. I had a virtual retreat yesterday. I'm going to be doing another one on the 18th of the month that's open to the public. If you want a day of planning, come and join me. But wanted to leave you with a few questions for you to reflect on in creating your vision. Think about where you want to be next year at this time, or end of the year next time. You might want to reflect on what your successes have been, what's happened, where your focus has been, and also what your theme is as you step in to the new year. I so enjoy these calls and want to thank both Marie-France and Susan for being here and contributing today. Really gratitude. Like I have to say in my work, it really is about gratitude the wonderful professionals I get to work with each and every day and connect with. I hope that you will reconnect with your vision. 2018 programming for me, more CCEs coming your way. Just a little bit of a plug of what's starting in January. Mentor coaching groups for ACC and PCC start Friday, January 12th. Some of you may know most of my group programming now happens on a Friday or a Monday. And the advanced group and team coaching practicum, for those that have taken the essentials and want a deeper dive, that'll be starting back January 19th. Learning Lab and Design Studio, if you want a full year or a quarter or a month of just having a space to look at all things groups and teams, come and join me in the Learning Lab and Design Studio. We kick off for 2018 January 5th. Calls in 2018 will be Friday at 8:45. A lot of people on the West Coast have said, please start a little later in the morning so I don't have to get up at 5 a.m. I've had people join me at 5 a.m. twice a month on Friday throughout the year. We'll be tackling topics like we've been talking about today: trust, micro-learning, creating engagement, using breakouts. So the Learning Lab and Design Studio is very much a practical lab. It's a place for you once a month to actually get your hands dirty with activities and your own program ideas. And it's also, I do one lecture a month on different topics, as we've touched on today. I have been asked to do a new group coaching program for coaches. So it's got a working title of the Coaching Business Lab, which will start in late January as well. So if you're a coach, hope that you might consider joining me. There's not even a web page around that, but it'll start late January. The group is coming together very organically. As I said, I'll be doing one more virtual retreat planning day on Monday, December 18th. You can register and find that at groupcoachingessentials.com. And I'll do one last effective virtual conversations call for 2017. And that will also happen on Monday, the 18th at 11 a.m. for 30 minutes. So with that, what is your commitment? The coach in me can't let you go with nothing said. Susan, what are you feeling called to do or create in 2018?
Well, I appreciated your 2 minutes of writing because, I started with, what are the things I think about? And then I was like, oh yeah, I came up with these things and I need to do some capturing around some ideas that I'd come up with. I do have some big plans for 2018, and I've already put some things in place. I'm meeting with somebody next week who's going to help me. So I have some plans.
You have some plans and you're breathing life. And even, I appreciate your comment because even 2 minutes allows us to zoom in and focus. We don't have enough of that in this.
Yeah, it went very fast. I was very surprised.
True.
Set a timer, do your 25 minutes of focus on you.
Yeah.
And over to you, Mary Frost. What do you want to be creating next year?
Yeah, I think I want to create a container for all my little plans and projects. I think I was very, the Group Essentials course was a real catalyst for me in getting me going on some things, and including my second group coaching activity at the end of December, early January. So I'm excited about that. And but I still need the container. I still need the updated website, some of the MailChimp things that will help me reach an audience. And so that for me is the commitment that will make the rest go more smoothly. But I'm happy to have moved forward. It feels really good. And thank you for your inspiration.
My pleasure. I really take a lot of gratitude, as I said, and I love my work. I would not trade it any day. It's always exciting for me to see how people are taking this world of work into the world. And I just say stay connected. Like, I really love it when people show up for these calls, when I get emails, when I sometimes get phone calls, although I'm, like most coaches, hard to get on the phone. So emails are usually quite good, but stay in touch. And, I'll look forward to our next point of contact. Maybe you'll join me for the next Effective Virtual Conversations call on the 18th when I'm back. I'm traveling next week, which is an abnormality for me, but looking forward to just being somewhere different, because that too creates a whole new lens of learning. Mm-hmm. So with that, happy New Year. Have a great holiday season, and I'll look forward to connecting. Thank you for joining me for this 14th annual year-end group and team programs call. Be well.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.